Hello, welcome back to our channel. In today's session, we are going to explore Prometheus Exporters, which is an essential component for gathering and exposing metrics in Prometheus Mountain. So we'll dive into their significance and functionality, with a specific focus on the node exporter as an illustrative example. So the table of contents which you are going to learn is what is Prometheus Exporter, Prometheus Exporter implementation types, how does Prometheus Exporter work. Then we will see some example of Prometheus exporters and Prometheus exporters best practices and techniques. Then we need to follow some prerequisites before moving on to practical. So you need to have AWS EC2 instances, two EC2 instances with the user sudo access, and you need to only install Prometheus on one of the instances with port 9090 and 9100 on both the instance should be activated. Then we will see an example of setting how to set up a node exporter on Prometheus server. So which includes steps like installation of node exporter, then adding node exporter to our prometheus.yml configuration file. Then after we perform this, then we will check the host status on our Prometheus server, and then we will conclude. So let's start. So what is Prometheus Exporter? So a Prometheus Exporter is a specialized software component designed to expose metrics from systems, services, or applications in a format that Prometheus can scrape and store for monitoring and alerting purposes. Essentially, it acts as an intermediary between Prometheus and target system, translating internal metrics into format that Prometheus can understand. So Prometheus exporters come in various forms, each tailored to gather specific metrics from different types of systems or services. So they can be standalone application libraries or plugins integrated directly into the software they monitor. Now we will see some Prometheus exporter implementation types. So mainly there are two types: application built-in exporters and third-party standalone export. So in a complex ecosystem of multiple stateful and stateless application, there are two approaches which we have, which include application built-in exporters and third-party standalone exporter. So built-in exporters are used when the client system natively exposes key metrics including request rates, errors, and duration. So common use cases include for application built-in exporter. It is used to develop an application from scratch. Developers access and integrate Prometheus client requirements from the initial phases of application design. So it is integrated into existing application which team modify code to add specific Prometheus client capabilities. The second type is third-party standalone exporter. So standalone exporters are used to expose metrics so they can be collected and processed externally. So in such instances, applications typically expose metrics through a metric API or log. So standalone exporters are also provisioned in setups where the exposed data relies on transformation and aggregation by an external service. Now let's learn about how does the Prometheus exporter work. So you can refer the article from forsttechnics.com. So here is the diagram of how does the Prometheus exporter work. So in the diagram, the Prometheus server implements the HTTP pool model to retrieve metrics from the monitor system. And then the exporter acts as a intermediary between the monitor application and the Prometheus server. It provides an HTTP endpoint where Prometheus can pull the metrics data. And the monitor application is the system or service being monitored. So the exporter collects the metrics data from this application and transforms them into a format so that Prometheus can understand and expose them through an HTTP endpoint. So Prometheus periodically queries the exporter's endpoint to fetch the metrics, which are then stored and processed for monitoring, alerting, and visualization purposes. Next, we will learn about the types of Prometheus exporters. So now we will learn about types of Prometheus exporters. So you can visit the official website of Prometheus to understand the types of the Prometheus exporter. So let's visit the official website of Prometheus. So just type Prometheus exporter on the search bar and then click on the first link, which is the official documentation of Prometheus. And here you can find the details of the Prometheus exporter types. So Prometheus exporters are available for a wide range of application and system, allowing you to monitor various metrics. So here are some example of Prometheus exporter. So in today's session, we are going to perform practical using the node exporter. So you can find the node exporter. So here you can find the node exporter in the hardware related. So which will collect various system level metrics such as CPU usage, memory utilization, disk, and network statistics from Linux and Unix like system. So it is basically used for Linux. Then you can find various exporter for Docker, black box exporter, which perform the HTTP, HTTPS, DNS, TCP, etc. You can also find the Docker exporter. You can also find your exporter for Docker, which monitor the Docker containers, collecting metrics about container CPU usage, memory, network activity, and more. You can also see the database exporter, in which it includes MySQL, PostgreSQL type exporter. So MySQL will gather metrics from MySQL and MariaDB databases, providing insights into database performance, query execution times, and other database related statistics. You can also see a PostgreSQL exporters, which is similar to MySQL exporter, but for Postgre databases, offering metrics related to PostgreSQL database server performance. Then you can see some additional Prometheus exporter like Apache, Nginx, and many more. So these exporters are just a few examples. There are many more available for various database messaging system, cloud services, and custom applications. So you can use this according to your requirement. And you can find exporter developed by the community on Prometheus website and on the other online repositories. So these were the example of exporters. Now we will look out to the best practice and techniques by using Prometheus exporters. So it can be used for standardized metrics, so which follow Prometheus best practices for metric naming, labeling, and exposure format to ensure consistency and compatibility across export. So with the help of exporter, it will optimize the exporter performance. So this is the best practice to minimize the resource consumption and latency by optimizing metric collection, processing, and serving mechanism within the exporter. With the help of exporter, it can implement rate limiting. So employ rate limiting mechanism can be used to prevent overload on the exporter and the monitor application during high traffic period. And we can use secure expose endpoints to implement authentication, authorization, and encryption mechanism to secure expose endpoints, preventing unauthorized access and data. And Prometheus exporters can be also used for versioning and documentation, which have maintained clear versioning and comprehensive documentation for exporters, facilitating easy integration and troubleshooting for users. With the help of monitor exporter, we can monitor the performance metrics such as latency, throughput, and error rates to identify bottlenecks and optimize resource allocation and configuration. The community and ecosystem engagement, which they engage with the Prometheus community and ecosystem to leverage the best practices, which share insights and contribute to the improvement and evaluation of exporters and monitoring practices. So by adhering this best practices and techniques, organization can effectively leverage Prometheus Exporter to achieve robust, reliable monitoring of the system services as well as the application. So now we will move forward. So as I have told you the prerequisites, now we will take an example of setting up node exporter so we can understand how the exporter works. So now we will see some steps to set up node exporter on Prometheus server. So in the article, here you can find the diagram. Let me just zoom in. So as you can see the diagram, so this diagram shows a relationship between the Prometheus server, which is on the bottom, and you can see this is my Prometheus server, and on the above side, here you can see there are three remote servers where I have installed or I am going to install the node exporter. So the Prometheus server will collect like a collector which collect all the data which is sent by a node exporter. So now if you look at here at the bottom hand side, we have just as I have already installed a Prometheus server that is up and running now. So you can check this. Here you can see the status and targets. So it is running now. Now we are going to install the node exporter so that first of all we need to have another host or another server. So as at the beginning the prerequisite says that we need to have two EC2 instances. So where we can install the node exporter and then we can find that first server would be Prometheus itself, and all we have to install Prometheus server, and along with that we are going to install the node exporter in the remaining server. And the node exporter will use the Prometheus server to collect the data from its own host, that is localhost, because we have to start the installation of node exporter on our virtual machine, and then we will also see how it collects from the remote machine. So there is no limit on installing or connecting Prometheus server with other node exporter. So if you install node exporter on the other server, you can gain metrics from this, and just you have to add the configuration on the main Prometheus server, which consists of prometheus.yaml file. So with the help of this Prometheus field server, we'll collect the data from this host so that we are going to see the metrics of all three node exporter metrics on Prometheus user interface. So for monitoring, you can use Grafana. Just you need to add Prometheus as data source and you can monitor. So now let's perform practically so you can understand it better. So here you can see there are three servers. So here you can find that my Prometheus server is actively running as I have installed. Now our next process is to install the node export. So let me just clear this. Now the first step is to install the node exporter on Ubuntu. So node exporter is responsible for fetching the static keys from various hardware and virtual resources in the format which Prometheus can understand. And with the help of the Prometheus server, those statistics can be exposed on the port 9100. So you need to enable the port 9100 and change the security setting of your instance. So now let's download the binary of node exporter based on the operating system. So here you can find the exporter and in hardware related, if you click on node or system metrics, it will take you to the GitHub. So you just need to download. Here you can find the releases and download the appropriate version for your system. You just need to right click, copy link address and just type wget and the remaining address, paste the remaining address. So this is the tar file. So my node exporter, so here you can find the version 1.7.0 with Linux AMD 64 tar file. Now, after this, you just need to extract this tar file. So to extract, just type tar xvf will be which will extract the file, just like zip and unzip. So here you can find the files which the node exporter consists. Now we will see and start the node exporter with this command. So you can refer all this command from the article. So you just need to go into the directory and then type this command. So here you can find that it has been started and the port default port for node exporter is 9100. Now we will access the exporter metrics on the browser. So we will just check that it is running on the browser or not. So in the instance detail, as you can see, this is my Prometheus server, the server 1 and server 2. So just copy your IP address, paste here, and with the node exporter port number. So here you can find the node exporter, and if you click on the metrics, you will get the metrics. So now as we have installed node exporter on our Prometheus server, so let's see the next step. So our next step will be addition of this node exporter to our Prometheus.yaml configuration. So simply, as my Prometheus.yaml configuration is saved in etc, so I will simply open an editor in the path where my Prometheus.yaml file is stored. So here you can find the default configuration. Now simple, it is a simple process. Now you just need to add the job name in the script configuration. So here down, you just need to add the job name. So after adding the job name, now you need to specify the target. Just copy the above target and just replace the port number to 9100. So here you can find that this is the local host, which is the Prometheus server. So in the diagram, you have seen that we are now installing Node Exporter on our Prometheus server. Then we will install Node Exporter on these two server, and then we will just target it and get the metrics of the remaining server. So there is no need to install Prometheus server on both the server. Now we will just save this, Control plus X, Shift plus Y, and enter. Now we will restart the Prometheus server. So to restart, simply type sudo systemctl restart Prometheus, and it has been restarted successfully. It is a good practice to check the status as if you have any error in the configuration or not. So by typing this, you can check the status. So here you can see our configuration is good as it is actively running. Now we will check this on our Prometheus server, Prometheus user interface. So you just need to refresh this. Here you can find the node. If you click on show more, here you can find the metrics as well as the localhost Prometheus server itself metrics. Now our next step will be to install the node metrics on the server 1 and server 2. So let's install. Now if you list out, now our next step would be to extract the files, enter into the directory and start the node exporter server. Now we will check that if node exporter matrix is loaded on server 1 or not by viewing this matrix on a browser. So here you can find the server 1, just copy the IP address and just type here 9100. So here you can find the matrix for our server 1. Now same, you have to do this for your server 2. So download the file, then next step is to extract the file. Then after extraction, enter into that file. Then start the node exporter and check on the browser that if this node exporter is running or not. So our third instance name is server 2. So just copy this, paste in the URL, just type 9100, which is the port of node exporter, and in matrix you can find the details. Now, as we have not installed Prometheus on the other two servers for server 1 and server 2, now we will just add the server 1 matrix configuration and server 2 on the Prometheus server. So it's easy. So just enter your Prometheus.yaml file and simply in the static config add the target of the other two servers. Simply type your target, the IP address of server 1 with the associated port for node exporter, which is 9100. Then again type targets. You can also use one line, just you need to add a comma and add other targets, but I'm using this to understand. Here you need to type the server to IP address with the associated port number for node exporter, which is 9100. So just check your configuration, otherwise it will fail. So we are good to go. So just save this file, then restart the server, Prometheus server. Now we will check. As you can see, the state is unknown. So just refresh this, again refresh this, and all the state are up. So you can see we have installed the node exporter on the other server, and we have scrapped that matrix on the Prometheus server. So we can monitor those metrics on a Prometheus server efficiently. So let's check one of the metrics. So here, if you just copy this matrix and in the graph section, just paste this and execute. So here you can see the local host, the second server, and the third server. So just click on this. And if you execute, you can see your graph. You can monitor this as per your requirement and the metrics. So here you can find all the commands on the fosstechnics.com where we have published this article. So now we will conclude for today. So in conclusion, Prometheus Exporter serves as a tool for collecting metrics from various systems and applications, enabling robust monitoring and analysis. So these examples like Node Exporter, we have seen how this exporter facilitate comprehensive visibility into system health, empowering organization to optimize performance and ensure reliability in their digital environment. So I hope you understand, and thank you for watching my video. Please do like my video and subscribe the channel. So see you in the next video. Thank you.